When I was 5 years old, I saw my first homeless person. A man was standing in a vacant lot, and I knew something was different. So I turned to my mom for answers. She did her best to explain, but it was confounding to me because I knew there were empty homes in my neighborhood. My fascination grew from there. The first time I met a homeless person, I was in California when I was 8. I asked if he knew the homeless guy in Kansas City. I guess I thought they all had some kind of secret connection. That's about how well most of us understand the homeless. We don't understand them because of our worldviews. And there are two kinds of people who see homelessness in two different ways, both unhelpful. About half of us just want homeless people to stop behaving like homeless people. Get a job, quit asking me for money, don't be crazy, don't be an addict, don't scare me, go away. The other half of us want homelessness to be comfortable. Here's some cash, here's a coat, you volunteer at a shelter, you work at a soup kitchen on Thanksgiving. From one of these two perspectives, we've lied to ourselves about what might solve the problem. And we feel the tension between these worldviews every time we see a homeless person on the street. And you know how it is. You pull off the freeway and there they are at the light, or you walk by that corner storefront and you're suddenly forced into two decisions, one after the next. First, do I acknowledge this human being? Look them in the eye. And if I do, I'm going to feel things I don't want to feel, like fear or sorrow or annoyance or guilt or disgust. Then, if I have money on me, I have to decide whether or not to give. Give, don't give. It's the paper or plastic conundrum. Which is worse for the planet? I promise you, by the end of this talk, you will know how to decode that moment. Now, I misspoke earlier when I said there's two kinds of people. There's a third kind, and they work in social services. I spent years in organizations trying to help the homeless, and social service people really want to help, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of systemic self-deception in this racket. The system we've set up is pretty much based on a lie. We tell ourselves that there's this linear process. If homeless people can just meet a few demands, we'll move them right on through, from the street to shelter to transitional living to permanent housing. It seems logical, right? But let's look at what these phases actually offer the typical homeless person. On the streets, the positives are you aren't being bothered by a lot of people. All your decisions are your own, but the price of that autonomy is extremely high. It is dangerous, and you're always in survival mode. The shelter, the positives are you get a meal and a warm place to sleep, but the negatives, if there was a ride at Disney called Shelter, there'd be a 3-hour line to get in, all of your stuff could get stolen, or you could be assaulted. In shelters, you spend all night worrying about both. It's like that loud sound that wakes you up at night. Who's going back to sleep? Transitional living or halfway houses, the positives are you start to feel like you have a place of your own, sort of. Because the negatives are it's like living with the strictest parents ever, parents who answer to institutional rules. You have to give up who you are and be who they require you to be just so you can stay. I've seen dozens of people kicked out of halfway houses for not attending their programs or classes because they had jobs. Now, permanent housing, the positives are you aren't homeless. And I'm going to say this, knowing I'll offend well-intentioned people who believe in what they do. The middle piece of this puzzle that we call shelter and transitional housing or halfway houses do not work, and we need to gut this system. Shelters have no impact on ending homelessness. And I know what you're thinking. It's below zero outside. What do we do? So yes, they can temporarily help someone, but they continue to be homeless. You want homeless people to get jobs? How does that work if they have to be in line by 3 p.m. or they don't get a bed? And I won't describe the hoops you have to jump through to get into most halfway houses, or how likely a homeless person is to break one of their many rules or look the wrong way at a staffer and wind up back on the streets starting all over. Seriously, we're asking people to solve all of their problems first, then give them a place to live. Shelters enforce homelessness. Transitional living reinforces homelessness. Ask any homeless person. Have them tell you their horror stories, if you can bear it. And they're used to horror, by the way. 80% of homeless adults were homeless at some point as a child. 80%. Chaos when they're little, chaos as adults. And they're used to it. But some are traumatized by it, Many self-medicate, and all are in one kind of negotiation or other with the system to get help. The system. Remember that third kind of person? Social services people are good-hearted, and they're especially vulnerable to the beliefs of the system in which they work. When you work in a system, it's hard to see that homeless people really just need a place of their own. House the homeless first. Ask questions later. House them and then get them healthy and in recovery and contributing. House them and don't make it impossible for them to stay. House the homeless first. Well, what does housing them do? Think of it as the ultimate medication. Imagine the change in a homeless person's life if we can give them these things. First, sleep. Homeless people, on average, sleep 3 hours a night. And I don't need to tell you how unhealthy that is. If we could even double that, imagine the health benefits, the physical, the mental, and the emotional benefits of sleep. Housing is an immune booster and an antipsychotic. Second thing, it gives safety and privacy. Imagine worrying 24/7 about being mugged or raped or trafficked. A lot of homeless people are on the autism spectrum, they're bipolar, they're physically disabled, they're vulnerable to mockery or bullying on the streets. There's nowhere to hide, and shelters aren't much better. Coming into a shelter is like being last in Group C when you board Southwest. Everyone is watching you, wondering what spot you're going to pick, and you know it. If you ever make it into transitional living, constant fear is of being kicked out. Now imagine eliminating all of those worries. The safety and privacy provided by housing, they're like anti-anxiety meds. The third thing it does is it gives you connection and hope. Taken together, what all of this gives homeless people is relief from the constant battle of survival on the streets. Housing connects you to a neighborhood, a community. When you're not just surviving, you can actually plan for the future. You may have a sense of hope. Housing is an antidepressant, immune booster, antipsychotic, anti-anxiety, antidepressant. It's like we have this wonder drug that does all of these things, but we're saying, get well first and you'll qualify for that drug. So if housing is the prescription, where can homeless people pick it up? In Kansas City, they can come to 89th and Troost. We build tiny houses for homeless vets. We started with vets because we knew we could get support, and we have tremendous community support for everything we've done. And it's a good thing because what we've done has been one happy accident after another. VCP started because a bunch of us knew homeless vets and we couldn't stand it. We knew if we could show the community the effectiveness of being real and honest with this population alongside the safety and comfort of a tiny house, we can make a dramatic impact on ending homelessness. 70% of each house is built by volunteers. You want community buy-in? Invite them to be a part of your idea. I promise they want to. People like Community America, Farmers Insurance, Bank of America have sent hundreds of their employees to help us build an entire neighborhood. The houses are built understanding the danger-filled mindset of a homeless person. Using the parlance of our time, these are trauma-informed tiny houses. There's one way in and out. The bed faces the entrance. It's low to the ground. The windows never face the windows of the other house, so no one's staring in at you. You're secure. You can rest and heal while at the same time finding your way to become a part of a community. And we place folks who live in this neighborhood with intention. We are about community and safety. Our family houses are built in the interior of the village with houses facing each other. We want to place our female veterans and their kids in this area. It takes a village, and people with like problems can rally around each other. Other residents, they want to keep to themselves, and there's even people who don't want to talk to me, which is insane. We put all of our vets who would prefer to be alone on the edges of the village. And these folks make excellent de facto guards for the community because they recognize anyone who isn't part of the village. We like our veterans to police themselves. This is real, functional, transitional housing. And we focus very simply on 5 supports that lead to permanent housing readiness. If you want to keep the community of housing providers like landlords and property managers in this game, we need them and they need us to help our friends become community ready, apartment ready, permanent housing ready. We focus on income stability, education and training, fiscal understanding, health and well-being, and network of support. These lead to permanent housing readiness. and we're already seeing how well it works. We had a vet addicted to meth who lost his entire family and who detoxed while at BCP. He's got a high-paying job now. He's reclaimed his family, and now they have a house all of their own. A woman who fled domestic violence. She lost everything, no income. She recovered with us and now has a 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. A cataract-blind homeless fella who lived in his car and had his car stolen. He lived with us for 1 year, and now he owns property near his family where he's building his own house. And yeah, we helped him get eye surgery, and he can see, in his words, in 3 dimensions now. These are low-hanging fruit. We're building our legacy on stories like this, and people really get it. I toured a local business owner who looked around the community. He turned to me, he pulled out his checkbook, and he wrote us a $350,000 check that gave us our community center. And that's where we offer job training, pet care, dentistry, behavioral health care, and other services. And yeah, we throw a few parties there too. We've got so many great supporters, and now they're helping us expand into other cities. Longmont, Colorado this year, and 7 more by 2022. So Veterans Community Project is a construction company that became a social services company. If we can make that transformation, others who want to solve this problem can make it too. You can start right now. Remember that terrible choice about whether or not to give money? Next time, remember this. Giving $1 or $2 to a homeless person is not going to end their homelessness, but investing that dollar into something that works can. So I'm not letting you off the hook. I'm not saying don't give money to homeless people. I'm trying to sink this hook deeper and keep you engaged in solving this problem. Now, when you're faced with that choice, instead of reaching for the change in your pocket, you can reach for your phone and just say, "Hey Siri, pay homeless vet $2. And there's money going to help people get the housing they need. Remember, when it comes to homelessness, we invented the rules. We invented the system that doesn't work. Why are we still playing by the old rules, pretending that this system can do what we all want to happen, to get homeless people off the streets? Let's stop lying to ourselves. In a way, what we know to be true is just looking for a home. When we give truth a home and act on that truth, the homeless will have a place to live too. Thank you.